You're watching It's Life Live with your hosts, Juan Lee and Oliver Marcel. Come join us for enriching, enlightening, encouraging, and thought-provoking conversation. Let's go. What's happening?
Hello. What's happening, Oliver? What's going on?
We're here. We're back. It's Wednesday.
Yeah, it is. It's Wednesday at 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Welcome, everybody, those that are joining us for the first time. And for those that are returning, welcome, welcome, welcome. We are here back in Clear Journeys, It's Life Live.
Yeah.
And we want you to come on into place.
Yes,
Allow you
indeed.
to come on in. We have been
Share it with
talking.
somebody you know.
We have been talking about finances all month, all this year, as a matter of fact. And tonight, we're going to talk about something that's connected to it, very closely connected to it, and it's connected to all of us in one way or another. And hopefully, we will be able to see through tonight's episode. You know, the choosing where you live, whether it's renting or owning. That's what we're going to be talking about tonight. So before we get to that, though, let's just tell you, my name is Juan Lee. I'm the founder of Clear Journey, and I am an author of the book Love Made Simple, The Guide to Inner Peace, Contentment, and Success. And from that book, we parlayed that and we rolled it into our nonprofit called Clear Journey, which is basically the practical application of love made out of 7 attitudes. I mean, well, it comes from 7 attitudes, but we basically talk about the areas that are meant to, if we give you the right attitude, that we can navigate those 8 areas in our lives so that we can be successful. What we do is we provide resources and education in all 8 of these areas so that you can navigate life, manage it a lot better so that you can be more fulfilled in your life. And that's what we do here. And so hopefully you're here back so that we can assist in any way we know how to in that area, any area of your life. We want to be your one-stop shop for life's challenges, to be honest with you. We want to be able to provide you with avenues and resources to help you navigate life. And Oliver, tell them.
Yeah. So listen, we along with navigating life, a very important component in navigating life is the relationships that you form and maintain, and the importance of being able to form them and maintain them in a very healthy way. And that's where I come in. I am also an author of the book Overcoming the Man Laws for the Man Who Wants to Be His Best Despite What He Was Taught. And it is just my passion and purpose to see relationships thrive both personally and professionally. And that ties right into, areas of life, because many of us have relationships. All of us have relationships, whether it
Yeah.
be parent child, whether it be sibling, whether it be husband wife, whether it be boyfriend girlfriend, you name it. There are work related, team uh, related relationships as well. And so navigating life successfully includes your ability to navigate those as well.
Yep, that is one of the 8 relationships, one of the 8 that we talk about. And Oliver is one of those strategic partners that we have, that if you have need in that area, you need to reach out to him. What we're talking about as it relates to finances is one of those areas also. And
Mhm.
my journey in life took me in that pathway of learning a lot more about the value of finances and understanding finances. And that's why this was one of the pivotal parts of my journey, is understanding how this thing works, finances work. And it came to be, I came to recognize and realize that it was a part of every area of my life.
Mhm.
I mean, it was not one area of my life that finances didn't make its way through it some kind of way or another. And I think it came out to the point where, it was the way I was looking at the way I was living to determine, how why I couldn't see how it was being a part of my life. And one of the areas that I spent a good deal of time on in was in residential and commercial real estate and
Mhm.
finances. And that was the thing that caused me to really begin to see the very fundamentals of this capitalist society, and understanding that, everything is meant to generate some way of surviving and to maintaining our society. Everything. That's what capitalism is. It's the source that maintains our society.
Mhm.
And when it came down to the place that we call home, place that we reside at, that also is a very fundamental part, because everybody need a place to put their stuff.
Mhm. That's right.
They need a place to put their stuff. How is that system facilitating the survival and preservation of our society? Is that we have to understand that our homes, the place where we reside, is a part of an investment system called real estate.
Mhm.
And it's regardless as to whether or not you are renting or you are owning, you are participating in the investment vehicle of real estate. And it's just, which side do you want to be on in it?
Mhm.
It's just that simple. And I think for the most part, a lot of people don't realize that there are, maybe they do, I don't know, maybe they do, maybe they don't. But let me just ask, you think people realize that there's two sides? I know, for instance, I never understood or even considered um, what it meant, your home,
Mhm.
how it played, what role it played. I don't think, how about you? Did you ever consider it at any point? I mean, I can't remember thinking about real estate probably until I was probably in my 30s,
Mhm.
when I began to really realize what real estate really was, what it really meant.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I was very late in life for me that I, you know, recognized that this is very uh a very necessary, if you will, if I could use that word, part of wealth building. And that, like you said, you're on two sides of it, right? You're either helping somebody maintain their investment by renting, or you are beginning to build yours by, by owning. I think there are people who, and this I'm sure will come, this will come up in conversation later. And there are people who by choice, choose to be on one side of that just for the sake of the level of responsibility that they want to engage. Um, but yeah, I didn't, growing up, and I think it's about exposure, right? I love what you're doing with this, with the financial emphasis that you're having now, because I think for me the realization didn't come just because the exposure wasn't there.
Hmm.
You know, we weren't taught, the advantages of certain things and the disadvantage. We weren't taught the pros and cons of certain
Hmm.
things, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
You kind of grew up. Well, I'll speak for myself. Just kind of grew up always, like, man, I'm gonna get my own place. But one day I'm gonna get my own place always was like, I'm gonna get an apartment, or me and my homeboy, we gonna be roommates, or whatever the case may be. It was always looking at independence from that aspect, but no further, like what this could really be. And there are other folk who were exposed to it, and are now in it, sitting in a very different position because of their level of exposure. So
I agree with you, but I say also um, that even those, because I had a different journey,
Mm,
um, I didn't understand it.
mhm,
I lived in a I lived my parents owned the homes every time we had one. We lived in two houses while we and both we owned them,
mhm,
and I did not understand it. I did not. I was taken for granted, and
mhm,
so I think as a result of the exposure from one side, but the other one was just it wasn't taught.
mhm.
It just wasn't taught. I mean, the things that we talk about here as it relates to the three attitudes that you need as it relates to your finances. Let's talk about sacrifice, discipline, and responsibility.
Mhm.
They go hand in hand with owning real estate.
Yeah, they do.
You can't do it without those three attitudes. And if
Yep.
you're not taught what those are going to be doing for you, what it is that you need to do to get. I was never taught that. I mean, here's the point. I had to cut the grass, I had to take the trash out. Uh, excuse me. Those were chores.
Mhm,
When something broke, dad was like, go come on with me, go get this and let's go fix that. That's just what I grew up doing.
mhm, mhm.
Um, but it never clicked as it relates to how this stuff works,
Yeah.
how it works. I mean, when you said a little while, it's the beginning of building wealth. That is a mindset, even those who own it. If you don't understand that statement, what you just said,
Mhm.
building wealth, real estate is leverage.
It is, and it's interesting you would say that because literally just today I was having this conversation with my parents. My parents own their home, and the thing, exposure was an issue, and it being taught was an issue, and then what was taught was an issue because even to this day, their perspective around what having real estate entails is negative. And so, for if you want to call it fear of or just acceptance of those things that may or may not go wrong, they're steered away from the leverage because that leverage has, for one reason or another, a negative connotation. So that's even a whole nother aspect. So you're right. They're folk who have already made the shift into that space, but don't recognize what they've done and what is available to them as a result.
Yep. But see, this is the whole point. It's about understanding that that place, that residence that we have,
Hmm.
if it's rented and or owned, it cannot be other than that, a residence. We make it, and we have this statement: it's our home.
Hmm.
Investments, real estate is not. We cannot see it as our home in the sense of it being. You and I make up the home,
Hmm.
not the structure.
Okay.
The
Okay. Gotcha.
structure, the structure is real estate.
Hmm.
It's an investment. And when we take if we living in a rental and then we go buy a house and we don't change the mindset, we just like we renting and we own it
Mm.
because we don't understand that it's an investment. See, we're on a different side with the same mentality, the same mindset.
Hmm.
And we lose the value of owning because we don't understand the value in the leverage that comes with ownership. When we talk about all of the downsides, the responsibility, all of the things that go along with it, it's for the purpose of the leverage.
Hmm.
That's why you have to pay taxes. That's why you have to pay your homeowner's insurance. That's why you have to pay all the damages or the maintenance on the house. It's because it's leverage.
Hmm.
And when you know that, the reason why you don't get that leverage as a renter, because you don't pay the taxes, you don't pay maintain it, you don't pay the homeowners insurance, you don't pay all of those things, and as a result, you get nothing from it. You get it as everybody. It's a residence. It's where you reside. It's where you put your stuff,
Hmm.
and that's where we move. We move because if we don't know that buying and owning has privileges,
Hmm.
and the privileges are at the root of this capitalist society. It's at the root of it. It's
Hmm.
about how it rolls, how this thing functions.
What
And
are
so,
and I don't, if I'm throwing you off, then just let me know. But what are, just for the sake of those that might be listening or watching the replay, what are some of the advantages?
well, let's talk about it. Here's we're going to compare renting to owning, and the first one is the financial commitment. In renting, you get a fixed monthly payment.
Okay.
Fixed monthly payment. You set for a year and you say, okay, that's what I'm paying. That's all I'm paying. That's all. I mean, and that's include, and that's unless you got to pay your utilities, and some of them have utilities in them. But for the most part, you fix your expenses by renting. You
Hmm.
have that ability to be able to know that this is all that you're going to spend this month, no matter if the water heater goes out, no matter if the stove stop working. It
Hmm.
doesn't matter. They're gonna your landlord is gonna have to fix all of that stuff,
Hmm.
and you ain't gotta pay nothing.
Hmm.
Okay. Ownership, on the other hand, it takes a long-term financial investment. Long-term financial investment. It's not going to be something that you start and you say, okay, now I got in here. It's going to, no, 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 no. It's the things that we talked about. You're going to have to pay that down payment. You're not going to get in. We'll talk about this another time, but the ability to be able to get into a house requires an initial investment.
Hmm.
And that can be anywhere from 3% to 20%.
Hmm.
The more you put into it, the less you have to pay in your monthly payments.
Hmm.
Okay. That's a whole nother story, but we'll get into that. But then you have the mortgage payments, you have property taxes, you have insurance, you have maintenance, you have HOA for communities, homeowners insurance, that we call them HOA is your homeowners association.
Hmm.
Those are costs. These are financial commitments that you have to endure or have to be willing to accept to get into ownership. Now, that's 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 just what it is. You know, I was fortunate enough that when I bought my first house, I just got out of the military and I
Hmm.
was able to get into a house for relatively nothing. I mean, it was closing costs, and even the closing costs, they rolled that into the price of the house. Whereas I think we paid less than $5,000 to get into our house back in '97.
Hmm.
And those are the things. But again, did I really know what I was doing when I did that? I didn't think when I went into the military I was gonna get out and go like, oh boy, I could got it. I'm gonna get this so I can buy a house. I had no idea. I was 18 years old, I had no clue.
Hmm.
So my point is that this has been my journey, and I sort of stumbled over it,
Hmm.
but in the process of stumbling over it, I felt that it was necessity or important as my journey led me in my journey. Whereas that a lot of people don't get the chance to stumble over
Yeah,
this type of stuff that I stumbled over.
that's true. Yeah.
And so I really wanted to share that with people. Now, the other thing, number two, is that flexibility and stability. Um, which one is the flexibility? Renting. It's very flexible when you rent.
Hmm.
You could at the end of your lease, you out of there. Ain't got to worry about nothing. You can
Hmm.
go find you another one. If
Mhm.
that's your lifestyle, if that's how you want to roll, renting is for you. You know, I was in the military, and when I was in the military, we used to go to, I'd get different assignments. And then every time I PCA, every time I
Mhm.
moved into another apartment. I lived in Germany. I lived in Las Vegas. I lived in Delaware. I lived in all these different places. Whenever it's time for me to move,
Mhm.
I just give them the keys and I'm out of there.
Mhm.
Um, that's flexibility. On the other hand, though, if you're looking for something to be a part of, you want to be a part of something, and you realize that ownership begins to give you some roots in a community, some stability, um, and some control over your own space. Because again, in rentals, you limit it to what you can do with it.
Mhm.
You know, they got limits, and you're gonna be in there knocking down walls and
Mhm.
just putting anything on the wall you want. It's just that you've got to respect the fact that it ain't yours to the point where you got to follow their rules.
Mhm.
Ownership, you can knock it down, do anything you want to it. Um, you don't want to destroy it. That's the biggest thing. You don't want to
Right. Right.
destroy it though. And so that is one of the other big issues where it's very flexible for renters and stable for a person who wants to own. So and it's again, what's your lifestyle?
Yeah.
You know, at the time I was single, just doing my thing. I just wanted to make my moves, do what I wanted to do. That was it.
Mhm.
The next one is responsibility for maintenance. I think we talked about this a little bit already.
Yeah.
It's as a tenant, man, you ain't got to worry about nothing,
Mhm.
and that has its value, especially when it go something break and you ain't got to do nothing but pick up the phone and go like, hey, it broke. You need to fix it.
Mhm.
You ain't got to go looking for nobody to fix it. You ain't got to find nobody. And I'll be honest with you, that is a chore in and of itself.
Yeah.
That's a chore within and
Yep.
of itself, in the sense where I'm talking about if you're owning it, having
Mhm.
to find somebody that's going to repair what it is. You know, I don't know how many times at the most inopportune time,
Mhm.
air condition goes out,
Yep. Yep.
the heat
Just
goes out, and all they tell you is we'll put you online, we'll put you in line, because when the heat gonna go out in the middle of the winter,
Mhm.
and when the air condition going out when it's 100
Mhm.
degrees outside,
That's right.
and they're gonna tell you we got you, we're gonna put you on the list.
Mhm.
And so now you got to make some adjustments so that you can maintain until that becomes a reality. So again, this is a part of ownership that you don't have to deal with as it relates to renting.
Mhm.
Yeah. So that again. But I think then again, what we were talking about earlier, you said, what are the benefits? Now here goes the flip side. Number 4 is building equity and wealth. This is where it flips.
Mhm.
And you just think about, and a lot of times people think about, here's the reality. For the most part, you spend 5 or 10 years renting, and you think back as to how much you've paid
Mhm.
over that time,
Yep.
and you think back and you go, what have I got to show for it? Housing is probably, ain't no probably, it's the most expensive thing that you will spend every month.
Yep.
you will
Indeed.
put that you will put that out every month, and you get absolutely nothing for it. You remember I told you, I said you're participating in investing in real estate
Mhm.
one way or another. One
Yep.
way or another.
You are. You are. And that is a very sobering thought. Um, when you think about the amount of money you spend as a renter and there's no equity to show for it, right? you just spent the money. Now, again, there are people who are okay with that because they're like, hey, listen, the money that I pay is worth me not having to do some of those other things that you just talked about. So there are people, and so I I dare say there's not a right or wrong in this. You have to make a decision based on what your value system is, what you have determined your capacity to be, and that kind of thing. But if you're doing it strictly from a numbers perspective and you tally up everything you've paid in rent versus what a home owning a home would cost to purchase the home and the leverage you get from a financial standpoint, you got to admit that owning, if you know what you're doing and you utilize that leverage correctly, is going to be the better option.
Well, I mean, and the thing about it is that, like you said, I've met people that probably pay more than I pay in mortgage, in rent.
Hmm. I'm sure of it.
And here's the thing though, their lifestyle, they're not looking at this from a perspective of using it as an investment. They are strictly using it as pleasure.
Hmm.
Meaning, in other words, real estate, if you can do it, the problem is that if you're at a level where you can just live in real estate without it, without understanding or having any value, if you can own something and say, okay, the only time I want to realize the equity or the value in this is when I sell it.
Hmm.
Meaning, in other words, I could care less what I'm putting out every month because I'm going to get it back when I sell it.
Hmm.
That's all fine and dandy. But I'm saying for the average Joe, you and I, this is the most fundamental investment that everybody has the ability, with those three attitudes that I'm talking about:
Hmm.
sacrifice, discipline, and responsibility. You exercise those three areas, those three attitudes, and I don't care where you are. I did some numbers yesterday, and I looked at it and I said, you know, at the day's current prices, $165,000 home. If you paying $1,500 in rent,
Hmm.
you can buy $165,000 house, a condo or two-bedroom condo or something like that for $165,000. With, here's the thing, here's the discipline and the sacrifice necessary. You're going to need roughly about $17,000 to get that done.
Hmm.
So for $17,000, if you're willing to sacrifice, willing to be disciplined, and want to be responsible, you can get there.
Hmm.
If you're paying $1,500 a month in rent,
Hmm.
and I know it is a lot of people out there paying a whole lot more than that,
Hmm.
but for a two-bedroom, depending on where you are, a two-bedroom condo for $165,000 at 7%, with 3% down, closing costs at about 11,000, for a total of about $17,000, you can basically own a home. And that's just within your reach if you operate, sacrifice, discipline, and want to be responsible.
Hmm.
It's there. It's for you. It can be done. It's just how much are you willing to put those characteristics in place?
Hmm.
And so that's what it is. But at the same time, the renters potentially there's no equity. They get no equity, but the homeowner gets value in equity. Equity is nothing more than the value of the house above how much you owe on the house.
Mhm.
So if you buy a house at $200,000 and it gets appraised at $300,000, you have $100,000 worth of equity in that house.
Mhm.
That does not, you do not have to touch, you can own that house and pull that money out if you want to. Now, granted, you've got to pay it back,
Mhm. Mhm.
okay? But you can leverage that money to do something else with it.
Right. Which is often what happens, there and just one way of leveraging that people do is they take out that equity and they purchase something else.
Another house.
Right. So, and then just that begins the snowball process of building wealth.
And that's exactly, look, and that was what I fell into, because once I got into this knowledge and figured this out,
Hmm.
I did exactly that.
Hmm.
We took that house and we flipped that equity into another house.
Hmm.
And then we flipped that equity into another house.
Hmm.
And so it just allowed us the opportunity to learn as we go. And
Hmm.
granted, there was some growing pains in the
Hmm.
process of doing that, but the concept was there for us to be able to do it. And anybody with the knowledge and the understanding as to how it works, granted, it can be done.
Hmm.
And so it goes back to um what type of lifestyle do you want? Where are you? What are you wanting? What are you trying to do? And I think that a lot of times, if we don't know that there be another way,
Hmm.
we maintain what we know and not understanding that it is very reachable with the right attitude.
Yeah. And that's the thing, just and we've talked about this before a while back, but just the the knowledge of options, right? Because there are individuals who, I'm sure don't know that this is an option. Well, they know buying is an option, but they don't realize what can potentially come with that, right? And so that whole knowledge piece, I think, is very important because now it allows you to make a an intelligent decision. And that decision might be, I'm gonna keep renting. Or that decision might be, hey, let's do this and see what we can build.
Well, and that's the whole point. It's just that, 20 years down the road, if you get this information now and 20 years down the road, you don't have to wonder why you don't have, or what, or you don't have what it is that you desire.
Hmm.
When the opportunity was there, you chose not to do it.
Hmm.
Unless, now granted, real estate is not the only way to do this. Okay. Now let's be clear. As it
Hmm.
relates to, it is a vehicle, it is an investment vehicle. There are other options. There are a lot of other ways that you can do the exact same thing. It's just that it's so fundamental because everybody needs a place to put their stuff.
Hmm.
Everybody has to need a place to put their stuff. It's either you're going to be on one side of that coin or the other one. And if you know that there's a possibility of being on the side that can bring you wealth down the road, then that's the choice that you want, if that's the vehicle that you want to pursue. So that's it. The other benefit, and this is the one that, unless you got it, you won't know, but it's the tax deductions. Again,
Hmm.
the reason why real estate is so um beneficial to own it is because it's the foundation of our society.
Hmm.
Dirt is at a premium. You don't get you don't grow dirt. You grow dirt. This is it. This is all it is.
Hmm.
And if you think about, all we have the opportunity to do is to try to control it, because you can never own dirt. I mean, to be honest with you, every state owns their own dirt. All you doing is possessing the ability to dictate what happens on the dirt.
Hmm.
That's all you're doing, because when you got to pay property taxes, and just be aware, property taxes supersedes anything.
Hmm.
Anything. meaning if you don't pay your property tax, the state will take your house.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's called a lien.
Mm-hmm.
That's you have a every structure has a property lien on it, and if you don't pay the property taxes, somebody can take your house from you by
Mm-hmm.
just paying the lien on the
Mm-hmm.
more on the doggone taxes.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I'm saying. It takes discipline, sacrifice, and responsibility, and not allow someone to come take some, steal something from you legally
Yeah.
because you have not chosen to follow the structure of how it is to be maintained. So again, if you're not willing to do what it takes to maintain it, hey, renting might be the very best thing for you. And then find other vehicles to invest into so that you can look for building wealth in other areas.
Mm-hmm.
This one is just about the ability to say, hey, we all need a place
Yeah.
to put our stuff.
Yeah, and this is a whole nother conversation, but I'll just mention it. The next thing too is having the discipline, having the knowledge to not bite off more than you can chew, because it may be a good thing for you to purchase, but it may not be a good thing for you to purchase something that's $1 million.
Again, that takes us back to 2008.
Right. Right.
That takes us back to 2008.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and knowing what that looks like. There is a term in the mortgage business, and it's called your DTI, it's your debt to income ratio.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that number is meant to protect you from biting off more than you can chew.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But you have to understand that that's an indicator that the lender has determined.
Right.
You have to understand that they use your gross income.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody lives off of their gross income.
Right.
You live off of your net income. And if you don't know the difference, you will get up and let them dictate to you how much you are allowed to spend. And you then put yourself into buying a house and being house poor. I don't know if you've ever heard that
Mm-hmm.
term.
Mm-hmm.
You can be house poor. You spend every licking penny that you have just to try to keep the roof over your head.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not where you want to be.
That's not where you want to be, because then all the other factors that you talked about, if you're putting every penny into paying the mortgage and paying the taxes and paying the insurance, or you putting every penny into just paying the mortgage and you can't pay the taxes and you can't pay the insurance, that's a whole situation right there. But other outside of that, then now there's nothing if your dishwasher goes out or you need a new washer and dryer. And I'm just mentioning the little things now. God forbid some of the bigger things. You need a new roof, or you need to put some windows in, or and so that's something to think about as well in terms of your decision making process and being responsible in that way. Because here's the thing, nobody nobody sets up a ladder, takes a running start, and jumps to the 10th rung. Typically, you set up a ladder, you step on the first one, you step on the second one, you step on the third, and so forth and so on. And then the more you do it, the higher you get.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same way. So you can start this process with something that you can handle. It may not be your forever home. It may not be, Diddy may not rent it from you to throw parties in, but it's it's the first rung, right? So that's a piece of it as well, because you're right. A lot of people, you know, tried to jump straight to the 10th rung and
Mm-hmm.
came crashing down.
Yeah, and I mean, that goes just to, again, I can't say this enough. You need these three attitudes
Hmm.
to be able to do this. And granted, we talk about this previously, talked about when you talk about budgeting and stuff, because budgeting is when you really begin to implement the ability to not be cash poor,
Hmm.
because you've put things in place so that you're not, I mean, house poor, so that you're not house poor, and you have a system in place to maintain, and you have to be something, it's discipline. It has to be done consistently. And the benefit of being consistent is that you get those benefits, those tax write-offs, those equity that you can use. So it's really an indicator as it relates to, okay, I can see how I can build something with what I'm doing. You
Hmm.
can begin to see it for yourself.
Right.
And that's where you're trying to get to.
Um. Yeah. That's important. That is important. And it what it boils down to is you got to make some decisions about what you're going to do and how you're going to do it. What works for you. If your eyes are now opened to the, wait a minute, I appreciate the fact that I can gain some leverage, then now you have to start getting educated so that you can do that. Speaking of budgeting, man, um, you got something going on with budgeting, right?
Yeah. There is the thing
Let's
about it is
let's talk
that
about it.
that's the other part here, and that is that we put everything in order. Whereas is that we have a book now, it's called the easy budgeting made easy. And budgeting made easy is for everyone to be able to start to put their desired goals in place and to realize them. That's what buying a home is all about. It's about a goal that we can help you put together your budget so that you can have what you desire. I'm telling you, it's the foundation for reaching your goals. It really is. You can find that. That's the thing though, is that you've got to be able to get the link to
Hmm.
be able to get that. And that
I'll
is
put it in
what.
the comments. I don't know if it'll go to every platform, but I'll go ahead and put it in the comments. It'll go to a couple platforms at least.
Yeah.
If you're watching on YouTube in particular and Facebook, you should see the comment. You should see the link in the comment. We can go ahead and add it to the LinkedIn uh, pages after this.
Okay. Yeah. And the thing about it is, guys, this is a fundraiser, and it's basically to also help Clear Journey to facilitate, continue to mission that we're doing, and that is to educate and to provide resources for anyone who's looking to know more about finances. So that is exactly what it is. It's a tax deduction. So if all possible, want to support us, um, give us a donation. You'll get it's an ebook. You'll get it. You'll find out what it is. Our gift to you for donating to Clear Journey. We really would appreciate it. Um, Again, that is the foundation to reaching your goals. Is being able to have a budget, beginning to establish those disciplines, those sacrifices. When it's totally within your control, you begin to establish those foundations so that you can then begin to build that wealth that you desire. So, any other aha question?
No, I think that's good. I think you gave some good. Uh, I don't necessarily want to call them pros and cons, but you gave some good food for thought in terms of individuals who might be looking to make a decision one way or another. For those who are like, hey, I'm in one thing, but now that I've heard this, maybe I need to explore the other. And so I think you've given some good context around what to expect.
Well, yeah, I mean, here's the thing, and like I said, it's basically knowing what's right for you.
Hmm.
You know what's right for you. It's not saying that anyone is better than the other one, but the fact is that there are some advantages from one that the other one doesn't have,
Right.
and that's what it is. I mean, if that's something that you aspire to do,
Hmm.
there are ways to get it done. And again, we talk about winning attitudes here. These are the attitudes that we need to win at financial um, security,
Right.
financial literacy, financial education. These are the attitudes that transcend any and every area of your finances. And it's just you want to reach those goals, your financial goals, start with the budgeting book. That is the book that really begins to show you. It talks to you about the myths, talks about the misconceptions, and then it gives you a breakdown of what a budget looks like as it relates to your necessities, your wants and your desires versus your and your debt and savings. So take a look at it. Go to the links, donate whatever amount you get the book for our gift. So it is our pleasure to help you on your journey. So by all means, help us support you on your journey. All
Good stuff.
righty.
Good stuff. And the link is in the comments of wherever you're watching this, except for maybe on Instagram. Um, I'll have to go in and maybe put that in, or Juan, if you want to go in and put that link in afterward.
Yeah.
Uh,
Or
but
or again, you can also go over to the YouTube channel because it's going to be on the YouTube channel.
it's on the YouTube channel, and if you're watching on LinkedIn, I put it in the comments there as well.
Yep. So hey, Oliver, let people know where they can find you if they have a relationship issue or concern that they want to address. Because again, how many oftentimes does finances impact the relationships?
Depending on what study you read or who you talk to, they're going to put it either in the top three or the top five or the top seven uh, in things that cause relationships to deteriorate. And so I am passionate about seeing relationships thrive in every area. And so you can contact me if you're a social media person. That's the social media handle right there on the screen. If you're an email person, you can email me. The email is on the screen as well. Would love for you to visit us, check us out, see what we're all about. There's a ton of content there for you to digest for free to really get a handle on building and maintaining your dream relationship.
Yep. And that's exactly right. And the thing about it is, it's so very interesting that the finances, it even impacts your career relationships
Hmm.
because people, they want what they're worth.
Yep.
And if the work you don't get what the work in the career field, you be like, hey, I go to take my services somewhere else.
Hmm.
And that again goes to the point where, and this is a good point to make though, is that the amount of money that you make is always good to get the most you can.
Right.
Okay. But success with money is not as much about how much you have as it is with how you use what you have.
Mhm. And that's a great statement
Yeah.
because we're often looking at uh, we're often looking at quantity and
Yeah.
evaluating success based on quantity, but there are individuals who are not millionaires and are living a fabulous life because they are uh, they're intentional about instituting the practices, principles, and attitudes that you talk about.
hmm and that's the thing right there because and one of the words that my wife and I used as we went through our journey is that we lived within or beneath our means.
Hmm.
That phrase, we live beneath our means.
Hmm.
The budget required us to live beneath our means. So if we made this much, we were living here.
Yeah.
And that's just something that we had to implement because that's just That's just what we saw that that benefited us.
Hmm.
Um, so if you want to learn more about Clear Journey, if you could, you just go over to clearjourney.org and you will see about the 8 areas of that we talk about, that we support people and individuals that are looking for answers in those areas. Or if you want to reach out to me at info@clearjourney.org, I'm here for you. If there's anything that I can do, giving you some directions and guidance and anything concerning life's challenges, reach out. We're going to hook you up if we don't have it for you, where you can find the resources that you need. The rest of this month, we're going to hopefully going to have some guests. The rest of this month, at least one guest should be probably at the end of the month. And it's going to be another person about finances. We're working towards our our webinar that's going to be in April. So keep that out, look out for it. It's going to be protecting your finances. So that's what we want to do. Once you get them, you've figured them out, you've done the discipline, you've done the responsible things. You want to be able to protect them. And there's so many things and people out here that are trying to take your resources from you one way or another. So we look forward to that. Look out for that information that should be coming out by no later than the end of the month. You'll start seeing it out and about. So until next time, Oliver, you have anything else?
No, that's it. That's good information, and I've always said knowledge is power. So
Yeah.
you got some
So
power tonight.
very well. There you go. Hopefully it helps someone to, through this thing called life, navigate this thing called life a little bit better. And as we always say in leaving, we can't change life, but we can surely help you navigate it. So until next time, we'll see you then.
Later.